Well, good morning. My name is Guy Hutchinson. I'm going to be talking for about 30 minutes about the history of Barney, and then we'll be joined on stage by the voice of Barney and the voice of Baby Bop. So it'll be fun, then you guys can ask questions, and hopefully the room will fill up a little bit before then, because otherwise you guys got to come up with a lot of questions. My name is Guy Hutchinson. I'm a writer. I've written some children's books. I've written a book about the Sesame Street theme park in Pennsylvania. And I'm fascinated with children's television. I only became really interested in it when my son was little, because I would watch shows with him and I kind of was interested in what he liked and what he didn't like. One of the things was he was a huge fan of the Wiggles. And he loved the Wiggles because he would dance and do whatever they did. And then I found, like Sesame Street, he had no interest in. But he loved Barney. And I kept watching it, and I was like, I don't know why he likes this. And I don't think this is a good show. And then one day we were talking, and he started talking about autumn. And he was a little kid. And he was like, well, autumn is, when you can get apples. And I was like, well, this is interesting. And then the next day we're watching Barney, and they're singing a song about autumn and apples. And I was like, I kind of get it. I see a little bit about it. So I was just looking up stuff about the history of this at the time, and I found out Barney has a really interesting, humble start. The show was created by Cheryl Leach. She had a son named Patrick, and much like my kid, he had, specific tastes, wouldn't just watch anything. And one of the things he liked was this We Sing Together VHS tape, and he would watch it over and over. And she wanted more We Sing videos for her son, but at the time that was all they made. Since then they've made more, but she wanted something else that would have this combination of old folk songs and cheerful characters. And so she started an idea to create something that would become Barney. Her son Patrick, by the way, you may have seen in the news, was eventually involved in a shooting and made some TMZ news. But she had this vision, and it was really interesting. And part of the reason it worked was because if you watch Barney, it's all him singing, This Old Man, and then putting new lyrics, or Vera Jacques putting new lyrics. And if you think about it, these songs have been around for 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years. And so there's a reason why. I mean, they're incredibly catchy. They're the type of songs that at one point in time, when people didn't have recording equipment, they would be passed down from generation to generation. Whereas if you're doing a new show where you're creating new music, you've got to have somebody to create that music, and it's not going to be as catchy as those songs. Cheryl partnered up with a couple friends. She had a friend named Kathy Parker, who was a video producer at the company that her father owned, as well as Dennis DeShazer. And the three of them decided they were going to create this show. And the first thing they said was, it'll be a talking teddy bear that'll sing to the kids. And then one day she took her son Patrick to the museum, and he saw a dinosaur skeleton. He was very interested in it. And she thought, well, a dinosaur would be even better than a bear. So let's have it be a dinosaur. They figured this would be a good idea to make the show appeal to boys and girls. And so they picked a color that they thought was very neutral. And they went with this shade of purple originally. The shade of purple he ended up being in later episodes was a little more pinkish. But they wanted him to appeal to boys and girls. They wanted him to have no claws, no sharp teeth. He is a T-Rex. And Dennis chose the name Barney. They had three other names that they were considering. Barney could have been called Cosby, Colby, or Danny. But they ended up with Barney. The first series of video cassettes came out. They starred Sandy Duncan. A lot of you probably remember Sandy Duncan. And these three videotapes, Cheryl wanted to produce these, tried to get funding, wasn't able to get it. But her father loaned her $700,000 to make these three video cassettes. And here's a look at the very first Barney. This is the first VHS cassette. And so the only way to get this would be either to rent it or to order away for it. So having Sandy Duncan was a good idea. She was a bit of star power for the tapes, was able to market it to people, make it stand out from other shows. And that was the title. It was Barney and the Backyard Gang, which was later shortened, changed a little bit. But Sandy Duncan, she was born in 1946, American singer, dancer, actress. Some of you may remember her from the Hogan family. She also performed as Peter Pan. Peter Pan is usually played by a diminutive woman when they do stage plays, and Sandy Duncan was very famous for that version. She has 3 Tony Awards, she has 2 Emmy Awards, she's got 2 Golden Globes, so she was a really accomplished person to put in this children's video. Barney first appears 7 minutes into that first video. So you see the sing-along song at the beginning, but after that, it's the family sitting down and talking, and it takes 7 minutes of this 30-minute video for them to get to Barney. This is the first clip of Barney in the video. Very high-tech special effects. There he is. This is Irene Lockridge Corey. Irene was born in 1935, died in 2010. Together with her husband, Orlin, she produced more than 50 theatrical productions, including The Book of Job, which was produced off-Broadway. She also, by the way, Book of Job was a summer attraction in Mountain State Park in Kentucky for 20 years. She was a co-founder of the Everyman Players Touring Company, and she eventually moved to Dallas, which is where they were producing the Barney videos. And so she ended up designing the Barney costume. She also designed costumes for the Wiggles. So if you've seen the Wiggles, Dorothy the dinosaur, she designed as well. She produced textbooks about theatrical makeup. She got numerous honors, Lifetime Achievement Award from the Children's Theater of Foundation of America. She has some of her work is in the National Museum of Women in Art in Washington, D.C. So she was a very accomplished person, a great person to choose to design the costume. And she came up with a couple different designs. You can see these ones here. None of these look like what they ended up with. You see these had the sharp teeth and a lot of different features that they ended up not using. But she fine-tuned the costume, got it exactly what they needed, and then once it was ready, she gave it simplified hands and a bouncy tail that would bob around on the ground. And then they hired Bob West. Now, we'll be talking to Bob West a little bit later. He was the first actor hired for the Barney project. Before they had even finished designing the costume, they hired Bob, and they were going to hire him to be an actor who would do the voice of Barney and be inside the costume. But when they designed the costume, the height that they wanted was it was shorter than Bob would be inside that costume. So Bob was too tall to fit in it, so he couldn't do it. Bob was hired in 1987. He performed Barney on those first VHS tapes in 1988. He had auditioned for Barney. He said they gave him a written description of the character, and he said he didn't understand what it was. There was no drawing of what it was supposed to look like. So he said he adjusted his voice up and down and tried to give them something that they would like, and thankfully he got the job. There he is. There's Barney dancing. The Barney costume weighs 70 pounds, and the temperature inside of it can reach 120 degrees. They've had multiple men perform inside that costume. These include David Voss, who was the first performer, David Joyner, who was the second performer. He took over in 1991 and performed in it till 2005, so he was probably the longest-running performer. And then Carrie Stinton, who performed it sporadically during that time and is the most recent Barney performer. The videos were sold directly to the public, so you would call like a number. And this was not out of the ordinary. There was another show around the time, Thomas the Tank Engine, that also sold videotapes on TV. And JJ the Jet Plane was another show that started that way. Connecticut Public Television employee Larry Rifkin rented a Barney video for his daughter, and he liked it so much he talked about, let's try to get this show on television, get it beyond just video cassettes and get it on television. And so they retitled it Barney and Friends. It premiered April 1992 on PBS. Baby Bop made her debut in Barney in Concert. This was a Barney and the Backyard Gang stage show. This was taped in Dallas, Texas, at that theater there, the Majestic Theater, 1991. 4 months later, came out on VHS cassette, and it was later featured on the TV show. This is a really cool thing. When Bill Clinton was inaugurated, it was sort of a big deal that he had a daughter. His daughter, Chelsea Clinton, was one of the youngest children that had been in the White House for a while. Amy Carter was the last little kid that had been there. So they had a special parade with characters for kids. And here we can take a look at this. Sorry, the sound is so low. So there's Thomas the Tank Engine. Let me try this. Let me walk back here.
Dinosaur with his own television show. Then Sesame Street characters, Big Bird.
It's definitely a different inauguration parade than America was used to. There's Big Bird. So that was pretty neat. There's all the Sesame Street gang. Really cute idea. Baby Bop is a triceratops. She was originally 2 years old, but turned 3 in an episode called Look at Me, I'm 3. She's been on the show since she debuted in that concert show that we talked about that was in the Texas Theater. She wears her pink ballet slippers. She's got a bow in her hair. She likes macaroni and cheese and pizza, and she is the younger sister of BJ, who was later introduced. This is Dao Knight, who was the voice of Baby Bop, 1991. She was the costume performer, and then Jenny Dempsey took over and started performing Baby Bop. Here's the other characters. You got BJ. A 7-year-old, he is a protoceratops, which is a dinosaur I had never heard of. He's been on the show since 1993, calls his sister Sissy, and has his own song called BJ's Song, which he sings about himself. Cute little character. And then Riff, an adorable orange 6-year-old hadrosaur. Been on the show since 2006, wears green sneakers, and has theme music called I Hear Music Everywhere. Here's a couple of the famous people that were on the Barney show. This is Danielle Vega. She was playing Kim from season 3 to season 6. She is an actress. She's been on the Hulu drama East Los High. Demi Lovato. Demi Lovato played Angela on season 7 and season 8. Demi Lovato's an accomplished singer, also an actress as well. Has songs on the Billboard Top 200, has done multiple tours around the country, multiple studio albums. Selena Gomez played Gianna from season 7 to season 8. In addition to being on Barney and Friends, she was on the Disney Channel show Wizards of Waverly Place, the films Another Cinderella, Princess Protection Agency, just an accomplished actress, certainly famous, very famous with the younger set. And Debbie Ryan. Debbie Ryan played Debbie in season 10. Big stretch. She starred in the Disney Channel original movie 16 Wishes, also The Sweet Life on Deck, which I believe is a spin-off of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody on the Disney Channel. And so she was on there. And Madison Pettis. Madison Pettis was on Cory in the House, but she played Bridget in season 10. She was also in the movie The Game Plan. If you ever saw that movie where The Rock is a football player that ends up with a daughter that he didn't know he had, that she was his daughter. And so she also was on Barney. Barney was such a ginormous hit when it came out. It exploded a couple years into the run. You can see the Toys R Us catalog there from 1993 amongst, the Sega Genesis. Hottest toy there, Barney. This is a news report from around that time all about the popularity of Barney.
Tyrannosaurus Rex, and now there's Barney, the first fuzzy dinosaur. Giselle Fernandez reports on the big purple reptile that kids can't resist.
Not since that famous mouse or that big yellow bird has anything captured the hearts of little children like Barney the dinosaur.
Oh, I'm so glad to see you all.
Who is that?
Barney.
Barney? Who's Barney?
Barney the dinosaur.
Who is this?
Barney.
He's Barney. What is Barney?
Mine.
He's yours.
This purple dinosaur, who got his start in videos, has fast become the attention getter at daycare centers, the star attraction at birthday parties. He even made an appearance at the inauguration.
The costume character you saw there at the birthday party, that was a huge thing. There were all these knockoff costumes that people would buy and make and then do parties everywhere. Barney's popularity came along with a lot of backlash. And so this was another news report all about the, I must say, bizarre hatred that a lot of adults seem to have for this show that is just for children. But let's take a look at this.
The character has some parents up in arms because of overbearing niceness and the almost cult-like hold that he has on kids. Tonight, we're going to show you some real Barney bashing, which took place at the University of Nebraska. Andrew Lazecki has the story.
To millions of kids, he's the superstar of public television.
Are you guys ready? We're ready.
But for these University of Nebraska co-eds, they'd rather have Barney seeing stars.
This was literally an event that college students paid to hit Barney dolls with hammers. Very odd. There was, look at this, they're throwing darts at him. I mean, look at this guy. Look at this anger this man has. I mean, I've never been that angry about anything. Here's Barney in Cracked Magazine being eaten by a T-Rex. There was an album that came out called I Hate Barney, another one called Barfy's Favorites. They parodied Barney on Beavis and Butthead. They also had a version of the Wolfenstein Gang where you could go after Barney. This was from Saturday Night Live. There was a famous thing. Charles Barkley was playing against Godzilla in TV commercials, and so they did a parody on Saturday Night Live with Barney.
Hey, Barney, what's going on? What we doing, babe? What's going on? What's happening?
You can hear how overjoyed the crowd is to see this happen. There were other parodies on television. This was from the show Dinosaurs. They actually parodied him more than once with a character named Baloney and a character named Georgie. They used the Barney songs to torture terrorists at Gitmo. They would just play different things on a loop, and one of the things they played was Barney. They asked one of the creators of the song, the guy who wrote the song for Barney, they said, "What did you think about this?" And he was like, well, he laughed, said, "I guess, if that's what they want to do." Here's the San Diego Chicken. San Diego Chicken hated Barney the dinosaur for some reason. And so they would have a Barney the dinosaur that would come out, and the San Diego Chicken would tussle with him. And so the Barney people sued for $100,000 because they didn't like Barney having to be part of this. And they said that, if kids are at the show or something. I don't believe that the suit was settled. I don't believe. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, I mean, it's just unnecessary. Just. Yeah, Barney had some moves. Barney was also parodied in this movie Death to Smoochie, which came out in 2002, and the character was somewhat based on him. In the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Barney was there in 2008. Had a big, giant, beautiful balloon. The balloon ended up getting a hole and deflating. I'll show you. See there. So, but despite all of this, Barney continued to be this giant hit, this show that just wouldn't go away, and I think it settled more into the consciousness of people, and people had less of an interest in, spending time worrying about it. The show stayed popular for kids. This is a great one. Barney at Radio City Music Hall. It was called Barney Live in New York City. Came out in 1994. Here's a look at the cast, which is pretty cool, posing out in front of the theater there, which is pretty great. Barney had his own feature film, 1998, Barney's Great Adventure. It was a cute little film, directed by Steve Gomer. Here is a look at the trailer. Man, I'm getting my steps in.
Close your eyes. Open your imagination.
Make believe.
Think big. And go purple.
Barney! Whoa!
We better get started having fun right now.
Yeah, let's go!
Now there's finally a screen that's big enough for Barney.
It's beautiful.
And a movie the whole family will love.
Yeah!
So Barney was in theaters across the country. People lined up to see the movie. It was a modest hit, not a very high budget film, so it turned a bit of a profit. One thing that's cute is if you watch that trailer, one of the kids, Trevor Morgan, you could see him there waving with Barney. He appeared in Jurassic Park 3 later, so he got an experience with a different type of dinosaur in 2001. Here is, this is Jay Leno. Jay Leno did a parody when Titanic was big and the Barney movie was out. He did a parody putting the two together.
Than Leonardo DiCaprio. Here, take a look.
It's the adventure of a lifetime. The world's biggest children's star on the world's biggest ocean liner.
Bye-bye. So long. Farewell. I love you. You love me. We're sailing across the sea.
There's lots of fun time arts and crafts.
Excuse me? Get you naked? Only a quarter.
So that aired on NBC. That was... There you go. That was the Jay Leno parody. Here's Barney. This was great. So because Barney had a movie, Barney was at the Golden Globe Awards, which I think is great. He had his little top hat on and a little bow tie. I think that's pretty awesome. Here is a great picture. When the Sprout Network debuted in 2005, they got Barney together on stage with Big Bird. This was at the launch party. It was like the Avengers. Here is, this was later, they actually did work Barney with a bunch of different characters for a thing that was produced for the We Are Family Foundation. And this was aired in 2002 on Nickelodeon, Disney, and PBS.
Coming together, let's sing together.
We are family.
Brothers and my sisters and me.
And yours truly.
We are family.
We are family.
Get up, everybody, and say, come on, Zuma with me. Yeah.
Everyone can see we're together.
We are together
As we walk on by.
And we fly just like birds of a feather.
But I can't fly.
I won't tell no lies. Whoa. All of the people around us, they say.
Can they be that close? Here we go.
Just let one stick for the record.
We're getting lost in a family dance, yeah!
We are family.
I mean, that is pretty exciting. I mean, I would think if they did that when I was a kid, my head would have exploded. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, they all know each other. Yeah, it's great. I thought that was real sweet. Barney had his own Sega Genesis game with Barney Hide and Seek. How about this? Barney has his own section of Universal Studios Florida. Before Harry Potter got a section, Barney has his own section of Universal Studios Florida. It was on the site of the old Bates Motel, by the way. If you remember Universal Florida, they used to have the Bates Motel. Took it down. Barney's got his own show there. It's called A Day in the Park with Barney. And it's real sweet. Here's a commercial.
Favorite dinosaur?
Barney! I love you. You love me. We're a happy family.
The great big hug
And a kiss from each other.
Won't you say you love me too?
I love you. You love me. We're best friends like friends should be. Big hug and a kiss from each other. Won't you say you love me? I love you, Barney.
You'll love Barney live in person every day at Universal Studios Florida. And new this year, Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, our second colossal theme park.
You can see the big sales pitch there. I took my son over to see that when he was little, and I'll never forget it. He was young enough that you couldn't really explain to him what he was about to see and all that. And we went in, and the lights go down at the beginning of the show, and then the lights pop up, and you see Barney on stage. And I remember he just stared straight, didn't move, and didn't blink for the next 25 minutes for the entire show. And I kept being like, are you enjoying this? Is this good? Is you okay? And then it wasn't until Barney was out of sight that he started jumping up and down and talking about how much he liked it. And they had leaves that would fall from the ceiling. And they were not real. They were like plastic, leaves. They were like cloth and plastic, fake leaves. And my kid took one, they'd land on your seat or whatever, and he carried that with him for like 2 years. So this character is one I'm super fond of. The last episode appeared on November 2nd, 2010. Reruns were aired on Sprout after that. They talked about doing a revival in 2015 that would premiere in 2017, but as we all know, that time has come and passed, and they did not make that one. Mattel Films, however, said that they're thinking of planning another Barney film. It's going to be directed by Danielle, I think it's Kaluuya. There he is there. And they're thinking they're going to bring back Barney, but on the big screen. I'm not sure what the type of film will be, whether it'll be a narrative film, a story like the other one was, or whether it's going to be a a film about the making of Barney. But either way, I think it'd be really great. I hope they work that out. So it looks like we are about to be joined by some fantastic guests. First, I see them coming through right now. Do you need a minute to put your stuff down? All right, take a minute. So yeah, it's a really beautiful story, just a wonderful character that has meant so much to children everywhere and to children's entertainment. So I'm really happy that it existed for my child, and I'm really excited for you guys to get to hear more about it. We first bring to the stage the voice of Barney, Mr. Bob West. And also come to the stage, Dao Knight.
Oh, and we also have with us a special guest. Josh. We also have a special guest named Josh Martin, who was the body of Barney. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Martin. A little surprise guest. A little crasher-rooney for you. Do we need another chair? We have enough? We got enough chairs. All right. And we'll share mics. There you go.
Well, come on over.
All right.
Pull this one forward. So, if anybody has any questions, now is the time to ask them. But first, why don't you guys each say a little thing, introduce yourself, tell people anything you want to let them know as we start.
You want to go?
Go ahead.
All right,
Just
thank
have
you.
you start.
And I'll
since
grab
he's
this.
my hero.
Oh, stop. We're on the hero stage, too. Nice. So, hi, I'm Bob West, in case you didn't catch that. And it's really hard to pronounce. But anyway, so I'm really happy to be able to come to these cons and meet everybody. The reaction that we've gotten from everyone at the conventions has been just amazing. People telling their stories about their childhood and coming up. Some people coming up to the table and they just burst into tears. And I can't tell if it's because my shirt is so awful or, but it's usually about their childhood. So, but yeah, it's really awesome to. It was an honor to be able to do this character, and we had lots of fun. So, Dao.
Okay. Hi. My name is Dao, and I'm really having a blast here, just meeting everyone here. They are also coming up to say, "You were my favorite Baby Bop. You're my Baby Bop. I just loved your dancing and everything," and I thought that was really super kind. So I am really enjoying it here today.
I am Josh Martin. I was Barney Body Talent from '96 until '09. I started on the world tour, Barney's Big Surprise, and it was my first acting gig. Wow. It was super cool. And since then, after the tour, I got to do PR and hospital events and some Make-A-Wish, some Make-A-Wishes, and it was a great time, and moving forward, I am doing a podcast with Carrie Stinson called Purple Roads Podcast, and check that out. It'll be stuff about Barney and other things.
Yeah. Carrie did Purple Tales podcast, and they kind of split, and now they're doing a separate podcast called Purple Roads. Purple Roads, I guess, yeah.
Purple Road, yeah.
So, didn't you do a little bit of PBS work while we were out
the summer of '97. Yeah.
While we were shooting Barney's Great Adventure.
Exactly. Yes.
So yes, he could have been your PBS Barney too.
Few home videos have me behind the purple one as well.
Yes.
It's been awesome. Thanks for letting me come and join you here today.
Yeah,
too.
I'm really happy to have you here. It's so. Oh, by the way, in case you don't know. Tell us about your other career,
the main reason I'm here is because I do the voice of Majin Buu from Dragon Ball Z.
There you go.
And so that I fortunately get to come out and meet a bunch of fans on that, and then now I get to have Bob and Dao out here with me too. So getting the band back together. Yeah.
Yeah, these things are great because it's like with other voice actors and stuff, we never see each other.
That's right.
Sometimes, you might do a voice acting gig with somebody, but to get this many people in one place at one time, this is the only, the cons are the only place where we get to see each other. So we go out to dinner and be crazy, and people are doing their voices, and it's pretty funny.
Yes.
Bob, I would assume that when you would do Barney, you would record that in a studio. Were you on the set ever? I mean, was that something that happened a lot?
I was always on the set. Really? Yes, we did it in a very weird way. And the reason was that at the very beginning, the company was brand new to doing all of this kind of stuff. They had no idea how to go about it. So they started building the costume, the Barney costume, before they cast the person. And that's backwards. You're supposed to cast first and build the costume around them, the full body puppet. And it turns out that I was too tall for the costume. So they said, well, we really like your voice, so we're going to get you to do the voice, and we're going to get somebody else to do the body, a shorter guy to do the body. And that's the way we did it. And we did it in real time, which is, you're not supposed to do that. It's just kind of really weird. But we synced up together, and the bodies got to know the voices, and the voices got to know the bodies, and we interacted. I mean, even live events, right?
Absolutely. It was a cool acrobat act to pull off.
We called it Dino Sync. We were joking that we were going to trademark it. Yeah.
Probably should have.
Yeah, but yeah, it was like one of those times when you do something the wrong way and it works perfectly. So.
Any questions in the audience? Yes, you in the front row. What's your name?
Michael.
Michael.
Bob, could you tell us about the evolution of Barney's voice?
Oh.
When it first started, it sounded a lot different than what it ended up.
Yeah, the original Barney was the one that I called the Wagner Barney, the Wagnerian Barney. It was very operatic. He was really low in his range. The producers thought that Barney should be, he's big, right? So he should be a big dinosaur and still kind of friendly. So Barney's voice was way down here. Hi, Tina. So that was, but that kind of voice, if you know anything about the way kids' brains work, especially, is kind of intimidating. It was a little bit scary for kids. Plus the fact that it was way down in my range and it was hard to maintain. So we brought it up for the later videos, and especially for PBS, and that's where we landed. So it was much friendlier and and much bouncier. Oh boy! Oh, stop! You're gonna make me blush. It was probably about, I don't know, 70-30 or something, or
Yeah, it was.
something
It was
like
around
that.
about 70-30.
Yeah.
We basically have to listen to the voice, and you got to follow it, and you got to mime whatever they're saying. Otherwise, you're going to look real, especially live. When you're live, you're doing a concert or something, and you're dancing or doing whatever, and you got to listen to the voice, and you got to listen to the music, and you got to do, like he was saying, you got to juggle.
That's it.
And for the little dinos, it was mostly moving bobbing your head, I guess, for the voice, for syncing with the voice.
Yes.
But we would always watch the dino bodies for kind of signals. We kind of didn't even think about it. We just sort of worked out this little system where the person in the costume, if we were doing a live thing, would just do this with their hand. That would be, for me, Barney is going to do a 360 jump. So that meant it would be, oh, that's stupendous.
Mm-hmm.
So that when I'd see the hand do this, that meant, I want to do a jump. So I would just ad-lib into that, and we would go from there. So yeah, it was just back and forth all the time.
Are we able to see that? Like, if we watched an episode, would we notice that?
Not in the episodes, because we had that all planned out. But if it was live, if it was something live, and we're just doing a personal appearance or something, then you would see the hand do that every once in a while. I don't know that there's anything on video for that, but yeah. Yes, unique and very weird, and yeah, but you just kind of get inside each other's heads.
Yeah, on tour or on TV, it was a little easier because you had a script. You knew what you were going to say and how to say it, when to say it, and everything. But like on TV shows, morning news, when you do interviews, there was no script. You just had to listen to the interviewer and kind of be in the mind of what Barney would answer and be ready to move the mouth with whatever Bob said. And most confusing one was in Miami one time, and I was ready to hear Bob. And the next thing I heard was the producer counting down and calling cameras, and I didn't hear a word he said.
Wrong channel.
Not one word he said.
We
but
have
I just had
earpieces and we do that stuff.
I just paid attention to her. So when she was done asking the question, I would go.
Oh yeah. Tell us about the mouth thing.
Oh,
and the evolution of that. You know the.
Well, for me, when I got there, it was a crossbar between on the bottom jaw. So if you could imagine putting like a horse bit from the molars, the bottom molars of Barney to the other side, and then the person inside would grab this. And then
So there's like a car wash sponge with gaffer's tape.
Yeah, it was a wishbone sponge that we had to cut in half and then wrap this bar and then bite on it.
It was such a great invention though, because originally Barney had a dead arm, right? And just like Big Bird has an arm that just kind of hangs there, because it was this and then the live arm for Carol Spinney. And so one of our performers figured out that there was this bar and that he could bite it. So it gave him both hands free to do hand motions, which was, I think, made a huge difference for the character, And for you, the mouth was just kind of loose.
The mouth was loose. The head was really, really heavy. So you got to be really, really careful, especially when you're dancing. The head sometimes kind of tilt, and you got to make sure you got to move your hands and make sure like it's part of dancing, so your head wouldn't fall off. And that was pretty challenging.
Yeah, for the little dinos, their heads were actually separate. Barney's was part of his body, but I think you could see. I think there might be one video, one of the blooper videos on YouTube that actually has Baby Bop's head falling off. I think.
Yes.
I think there is.
Yes, that was Barney in concert when she jumped out. My head, I jumped out and supposed to start dancing, and I jumped out, and the head was like falling off. I was like, oh gosh, I was like, oh. So when the video came out and I actually saw that, I was like, oh no.
Traumatized children everywhere.
Yes, I was traumatized.
Very sad.
The Baby Bop head, was it very balanced? It always looks off balance to me, like it's heavier.
It's more heavier in the front, so you got to balance with your back and make sure it balanced. But if you tilt or something, it could go like this. Yeah. So in that video, it did show that it kind of started falling off.
Kind of like had that alligator nose thing going on, yeah.
But I sure look pretty with the pink bows.
And your tutu.
When you're working as a soup performer, I guess you have to exaggerate things. Did you guys have a dance background or anything going into it?
I actually did. I danced when I was in college. I took some dancing classes and stuff like that. And then I wasn't really a professional dancer, but I know what I'm doing. And so when I auditioned for Baby Bop, they said, show me some dance move. And so I did a ballet move, which I didn't know what I was doing. I just did a ballet move. Like, okay, you're cast. Like, okay. And that was the extent of it.
And you were just the right height for the costume.
Exactly. Well, actually, it was really, really funny because, back then, us actors, we kind of fluff things a little bit sometimes. So I said I was 5'5". I said that I was 5'2". In my resume, and so my agent called.
But you were.
Yeah, and I was only 5 feet tall, and so when I went out audition, oh no, your resume says you're 5'2". You cannot fit the costume because the costume is already made. And I go, no, I'm really 5 feet tall. No, really 5 feet tall.
That's
and
funny.
so my agent called me and said, you better fit that suit or you're down.
That's funny.
So I said, I swear I can fit it. I
Get
can
those
fit it.
Dr. Scholl's lifts or whatever.
Exactly. So I actually tried out, and then I put the suit on, and I danced a little bit for them, and boom, I got cast.
Yeah, I have no professional dance training, but I grew up in the age of MTV, and so I watched a lot
And
of
the
music
Beastie Boys.
videos. Yes, and the Beastie Boys.
Another
yes.
gig of his.
Right.
Rhyming and Stealing.
Beastie Boys tribute band.
Yeah.
Yes.
These guys are awesome. I mean, amazing.
But yeah, I had blessed with some rhythm and the ability to mimic, and then most importantly, Miss Penny, she taught me a lot of stuff. She taught me what a bell kick was, which is that signature side kick of Barney's, and all kind of technical dance terms. So any professional training I had was from Miss Penny.
Miss Penny was our performance director for many years.
Yeah, everything that you saw was Miss Penny.
She had previously been on Broadway in like Peter Pan. She was in the chorus, I guess, or something. And
yeah,
very talented. So
Definitely.
we were very lucky to work with excellent people, really great directors and producers and writers. Our Stephen White, our crazy head writer, just hilarious. Just throw in the funniest stuff in the scripts, which didn't always stay.
As it happens.
Question here in the front row. What's your name?
Julie, Miss Julie, because I teach pre-K.
Okay.
There you go.
Barney wasn't really on my radar until high school when I was babysitting, which became very useful at times. But now I teach early childhood, and I'm curious, how did the show use anyone from my profession to help them in any way?
Oh boy, did they ever. Yeah, every script was gone over with a fine-tooth comb. I mean, seriously developed everything that was presented. It was analyzed, how it was presented, whether, if we're teaching colors, we use the same shapes instead of saying, so that shape is not identified with color. If we're teaching shapes, we use the same color. If we're teaching, all those really analytical things. We had a couple of, Marianne Dudko was our main consultant, but the two women who came up with the concept, Cheryl Leach and Kathy Parker, they were also teachers. So, together, the three of them, and I think some other consultants every once in a while, drove the writers absolutely insane. Because, we had this show to do. We had a story, a through line to do, and characters to develop and everything. But at the same time, everything had to be educationally sound, so. And there was this famous Harvard study that was done that showed that, it really paid off. So we're really, really proud of that.
What did the study say? Do you know about
It said generally that kids that watched Barney did better when they got into first grade or kindergarten and first grade than kids who didn't.
I was telling everybody before you guys were here, my son loved Barney. And I remember the day that I heard him talking about autumn and apples, and it was because he had learned it from that. I kept thinking, where did he get this from? And I realized that the combination also of these songs that are so catchy because they're very old traditional songs that would be handed down, and then these words that were important and figured out in advance so that way kids would hear them over and over and learn them. And I thought it was really, really good at that. It really worked.
Yeah, the songs, I mean, it was considered to be edutainment was the big word at the time. And so I think a lot of people didn't realize that there was an educational background in it because it was just so entertaining for the kids, and they got so, really, honestly, got so hooked on it. And there's still criticism now that says that Barney talked down to kids, or that that it was too simplistic, or it was too naive, or whatever. And to which I say, well, one of the things about Barney was that there had never been a program that had been aimed at children, very specifically focused, really seriously on children that young before. And so people just weren't used to seeing that. And so it was just, it was so different. And people would say, parents hate to watch it, And then we find out from another study that parents watched Barney with their children more than any other television show. So, there's a little of yin and yang going on there. But I think the results kind of speak for themselves. So.
I think what you say is interesting. At that time, Sesame Street appealed to a much broader range of ages than it does now. Yeah. Now, many shows, are narrowly cast to a specific age, but this was a real revolutionary thing at the time.
Yes, it was, and as a matter of fact, Sesame Street did change somewhat to move downward in the demographic, in age range, and but for several years we beat Sesame Street in the ratings for our demographic, which was mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Questions?
It was all on the shoulders. Yeah, they basically like a jetpack frame. It was all aluminum.
And for him, there really was a jetpack in there one day that ignited.
Yes.
Tell
they
us
also
about that.
had.
Tell us about that, Josh.
So the frame, the frame was shoulders like this, and then the aluminum is down, and then straps around the waist, and then cross up this way. So you really got control of it. It's snug on you.
How did you get into it?
Basically, if you took a line and went from the inside ankle up the leg, through the crotch, and then back down the other leg the same way, without feet, you just crawl in, and then they zip and Velcro everything back together.
That's why if you were a little kid and the other kids said, "Yeah, he's not real. There's a zipper in the back," they were lying.
Yeah, that's right. Right? Yeah.
And there was no zipper in the back.
You really couldn't see unless you know what you're looking for. They did an awesome job of hiding those seams and kind of disguising how that works. But to the story, so after that,
I thought you were going to avoid it.
I was leading up to it.
Traumatic.
Yeah, right. So the two more aluminum supports that supported the head, and on those supports they had mounted Makita battery chargers, right? That held Makita batteries that were hardwired to 2-inch fans, right? And basically they just circulated the hot air. There was no cooling factor, really. And then there was really no cooling factor one day when I was doing the TV show, and I turned on the fan. That's how you turn the fan on. There's a button right here by your head, so I don't just have a tick. Which is fine if you do. I'm just pointing that out. And so we're rehearsing. We're not filming yet. We're not recording yet because we were using tape at the time. You didn't just use tape. You had to conserve it. So we're rehearsing. Point is, there's no video of this. Sorry, spoiler alert. I went on to rehearse the shot, and I had the teeth in the costume as well. The teeth were removable. And so when the teeth were removed, you could have a lot more circulation of air, much cooler. Well, had the teeth in, and I took a step, and I went, "What? Something burning?" And I look out the mouth, and everybody's just, taking their notes, doing their regular thing. Nobody's moving. I was like, all right, I guess everything's cool. A couple of seconds later, I take another step. Are you, no. There's nothing, y'all don't smell burn? Okay. And then a few more steps, and then every breath I was taking felt like I was like inhaling smoke, right?
Oh, gosh.
And I looked, nobody was moving. Side note, there was a special effect going on where popcorn was going to shoot out of the table, Scooter the squirrel. There was popcorn. So I was thinking, I'm trying to reason it. This is probably part of the special
Scooter's
effect.
burning the popcorn again.
Right? I didn't know. But I couldn't breathe all of a sudden, so I just ran off stage yelling, "Get me out of this thing." And I've been told that when I did is when smoke came out of the mouth and the back of the fleece.
Oh, my gosh.
Because
Godzilla!
one of the wires had grounded out on a bolt in the head on one of the fans and had started smoldering. And I couldn't see it, and no one else could see it until I ran out and threw it off of me. And I was just confused because I was young and super in great shape, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. And they were just relax, just settle down, settle down. I'm like, what's wrong? Just relax. All right. So I sat back. Next thing I know, here comes an ambulance.
And you're fine. You're fine. Somebody get this guy a doctor.
Mind you, I'm inside of the costume you wear, or we wore winter silks, right? Because they you can't wear bulky clothes in there, and it's easily laundered. Well, that's what I wore to the hospital as well. My winter silks.
There's got to be pictures of this somewhere.
Before cell phones, thank goodness.
This is the first time I've heard this in detail. This is
As
awesome.
a matter of fact, once I got into the ambulance, this was the days when they were monitoring scanners, police scanners. So all the TV stations had heard that Barney had caught on fire and was on the way to the hospital, and we changed hospitals en route. We were going to go to Baylor or Parkland or whatever. We went to some little mom and pop on the side. Wow. Emergency thing, and I walked in. This lady's like, "So you're Barney, huh?" No, I'm Josh Martin. I'm here for smoke inhalation.
She was disappointed.
Well, can I get a picture for my grandson? I'm in silks. What are you gonna tell him? This ugly kid is Barney? I don't even think he's gonna buy it. But yeah, so I spent the day. I'll try to wrap it up here. They gave me the day off the next day, right? And my mom calls me. I hadn't talked to her between this time. And I answer the phone. Hey, Ma. Well, are you not working today? No, I have the day off. Well, did something happen at work? I'm from Louisiana, my mom's country. And I said, well, yeah, my costume caught on fire. And she goes, well, I was on my way to work this morning listening to Howard Stern, and he said Barney's costume caught on fire. And I thought, well, that must be a joke, because my son would have called and told me about it. So, yeah, I had to smooth that one over. And I wound up with a Trivial Pursuit question out of the whole thing.
That's right.
Millennium Edition. What children's character caused a commotion when his costume caught on fire? Barney.
So now you'll all win using that answer.
Well, one answer ahead. Bob, any memories of working with Sandy Duncan?
Well, there was the time that Sandy Duncan caught on fire. Well, okay, not really. Yeah, she was great. She was just that perfect mom. She did such a great job, and so believable, and she was really great to work with. Yeah.
Any more questions? Front row.
So I know there's been tons of different Barney costumes, and they all look kind of different. So Josh, was yours made just for you, or they?
No. The first two costumes that I wore were made specifically for the road. So I had brand new costumes that I got to break in. After a while, we had to start using the other one because it wasn't doing anything. But I probably had the final version by the time we were on the road there in 96.
Yeah, they did a lot. I mean, they did a tremendous amount of development on those costumes. We even had a special custom fabric. I don't know if you ever heard this, a fabric that was woven especially for Barney, and I think they patented it.
That color is patented.
Yeah, it's that and the weave. It's like a certain material and a certain kind of. They wanted it to be able to stretch and to have a little bit of a fleece to it, and to be able and not have a sheen.
I didn't know that.
And it was like this, and apparently some other customers of that particular mill said, hey, we like this stuff. Can we get, and I don't know if the company licenses the stuff to this day. It's amazing.
Interesting.
But a common question. There are costumes in various places. A lot of them have been destroyed. a lot of them probably were destroyed because there were small animals living them. I mean, it was, after a while, it's just the dry rot and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of foam in there that's just going to dry out and crumble anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the really early costumes really fell apart because it was actually bare foam on the outside, and it was glued together, it seems, on the outside, and it was spray painted purple, and it was, and it was totally different later on. But I think Mattel may have some in their possession in some, dry storage kind of place or something, but that's just a theory. And I think there's a rumor that somebody who actually built the costumes might have one, but nobody's really telling. So.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's going to let those go. And the ones that, there's right now there's still the Barney, A Day in the Park with Barney down at Universal Orlando is still going. So there are at least I think 2 costumes there. Probably. And so, we're gonna, someday I think we're gonna figure out where the rest of those are because everybody wants to know.
But you also got to realize that these costumes on the road, we had costumes inside road cases that were this tall and this long and this wide. So people would ask us all the time, "Hey, can you go put on your costume and say hi to my kid?" No. Oh, come on, just go up to your room and put it on real quick. It doesn't fit in my suitcase.
And it takes forever to put on.
It takes 2 guys to push it into a giant semi-truck.
Yeah, it's like you're doing a spacewalk. Basically, you have to get into that suit. Yeah.
I like it now. I can walk into elevators straight instead of back in with the tail.
And Barney would back up, and there'd always be some joker going, beep, beep, beep.
Of course.
I love it. Questions? I wanted to ask, do you guys have any memories that you could share about doing it on stage in front of an audience?
Yes, I was on stage and I was performing and with the kids there singing Mr. Knickerbocker, and I was watching all of the children out there and they were singing along and they were so happy and they knew every single word of those songs, especially I Love You, and oh my gosh, it was really touches my heart, really, really did. Yeah.
This man has so many memories from the road.
I have quite a few road stories, but I think the best one was jumping out at the beginning of the show because the plush would be on the stage, and then the little voiceover would go, and then they'd fill the stage full of smoke where the plush was, you couldn't see it. They'd pull the plush out, and then we'd jump through the smoke to enter. And that, what they call in the business a pop, that pop of people screaming, children and the adults. It wasn't just a bunch of little kids getting crazy about Barney. It was their parents getting crazy, too. And even the roadies who had done the Rolling Stones, Tina Turner, Marilyn Manson even, big acts who've had crazy reactions. These guys were like, that is the loudest I've ever heard, ever. And you could feel it too. There's no denying that energy once you jump through. And you could have the worst day, and sometimes I was, being on the road, away from family, and having to make that costume do the deal every time. They paid the money. Y'all paid the money to come and see it. You couldn't call in sick, especially on the road. Yep. You wouldn't last long. The next call you would get is aisle or window. And that's which seat would you like on your way home? Because you don't have a job anymore. But
I don't think too many people got fired from the road shows.
No. It was
really
a great
good
gig. It was a super awesome gig, and I appreciated every moment. I didn't know that I was going to appreciate it that much because I was a punk 21-year-old kid, and I was a little jaded against the purple one because it wasn't even on my radar. I told the faculty member I didn't want to do the audition because I was too cool for school. And she gave me that mom side eye. I think you need to do it. Thank goodness she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Super blessed.
Well, for me, there's two things that really stand out. The first was the time when we really knew that things were blowing up, and that was we did this tour of PBS stations around the country for Pledge Week. You know, they usually have people come in and they talk, you know, please send us money, which is the usual way things are done. And they had been apparently promoting this meet and greet with Barney in Hartford, Connecticut. Our home station was Connecticut Public Television. And they'd been promoting this for like a week, saying, sure, bring your kids, and we'll take a picture with Barney. And we said, how many people were you expecting? And they said, oh, maybe about 600. And we said, how long have you been promoting this? And they said, about a week. And we said, no, it's going to be more than that. And we were thinking maybe 1,600, 1,000 or 1,600. We get to the mall, Hartford Center Mall, and the sidewalks outside as we drive up are filled with mothers with strollers. I mean, filled. We get inside, and there are 6,000 people in the mall, 3 levels in the main court, stacked up off the rail. And it took us 6 hours to get there. And somebody said, we can't do this. We're just going to have to cancel. And it's like, no, you don't understand. We have to stay. So we sent people out all over Hartford. We bought up all the Polaroid film, bought new Polaroid cameras, and we stayed there for 6 hours and got through everybody. And it was amazing. You know, we weren't even supposed to really do a concert or anything. It was supposed to be a meet and greet. But we always took CDs with us everywhere we went to do sing-alongs and stuff, just in case, and fortunately, that was great. The second thing was the Radio City show, which was mind-blowing. At the Hartford Center Mall, Barney walked out of the elevator, and it was like, ladies and gentlemen, the Rolling Stones. It really was, because the elevator's doors opened, and this roar, just this went through the mall. Kind of getting chills just thinking about it. And, you know, Radio City Music Hall, same thing. That opening, Barney comes out, boom, you know, there's all this energy, and everybody's just with you, and that's so awesome. So I had the guys in the sound guy turn up the audience in my headphones. More. I want to be out there on the stage. So eventually he got it loud enough, and that way I could yell, "Hi, everybody!" And you knew. And then that's when it came up, you know. So, yeah, live was the thing. It was awesome.
I can imagine that Radio City Music Hall must have been something else just to perform there.
Yeah.
I found this picture, which everybody can see on the screen over there.
Oh.
From the press kit.
Yes. Really, a bunch of our folks.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been, I mean, you've made it when you're at Radio City Music Hall.
Well, technically, Radio City Music Hall is considered a Broadway theater.
Yeah.
So we can say that we play Broadway, which is like, you know, how, you know, that's it's just amazing.
It was awesome.
It's amazing.
We've got time for a few more questions. Any hands? Here in the front row.
Bob, so I'm an actor, and when I get excited, I find myself copying Barney's inflection, how he almost builds up at the end of a
I am so sorry.
So, I mean, I think that's almost as iconic as the voice itself with how you phrase things. So how did you develop, like, Barney's phrasing and how it almost always ends in a jump, and you can hear that in your voice?
Well, the thing is that I'd been acting for a long time. I acted through college, and I'd done voiceover for 10 years before I even started doing Barney. And I specialized in character voices and lots of comedy, and I did lots of industrials, so interp was really important to me, and still is. A lot of people don't understand what interp is, but that's just breaking down a sentence and communicating it really, really clearly. Every pitch contour, every phrase, every clause and subclause, and you know, being able to go through. It's funny that being able to go through an educational script about electronics that's 10 pages long and read ahead half a page, and develop read ahead half a page and then figure out where the sentence is going and make sure that it sounds really clear, that actually helps you prepare for doing anything else. Just thinking about the language and being really into the language and knowing it intimately is just, it's just really important. And lots of comedy improv. The radio commercials that I used to do for 7-Eleven. I did 7-Eleven commercials forever that were just insane. And that radio commercial training was a big part of it, I think. That develops your timing and your pacing too. So.
Questions? Yes, over here in the hat. What's your name? Melanie. Melanie. What's your question?
Thank you. What do you think?
I actually do, because I run into a lot of moms and a lot of dads. They say, I grew up with Barney because I learned about manners. I learned about, so many educational things from it, and it's just nice, clean, in a nice clean show. And so I actually do. I think that people still really think a lot about Barney. And what was a wonderful, wonderful show it was. Especially, we have this guy. He is so wonderful.
Okay, check's in the mail.
$10 later.
Well, it was already kind of big when I got on board, so I was just happy and blessed to be a part of it. The too cool for school guy figured it out the first hospital visit he did, and figured out what it's all about. So definitely thankful.
Yeah, we did so many. We did a lot of Make-A-Wish stuff, and we did hospital visits and everything, and it was really tough a lot of times. There's a story that Carrie Stinson tells about a hospital visit that they did, and he said that. And usually hospital staff is very cheerful, and they're very, for the kids, they're very supportive and everything. And they've seen it all. Oncology, people who are working in pediatric oncology, they've really seen everything. And Barney came in and visited this one little girl, apparently, who was sick, and she just, and he started talking to her, and she's talking back to them, and, back to him, and they're just having a great time. And the staff is standing over here crying on the side. And Carrie came over to them afterwards and said, why were you crying? And they said, she has not spoken in weeks. And that was the first time that she spoke. And we have heard this so many times. I mean, children who, like an autistic child who goes up to his mother for the very first time, wraps his arms around her and says, I love you, Mommy. And she attributes that to watching Barney. That kind of thing, and the stories that I've heard over the last, just doing these conventions, this is my first year for it, but the stories I've heard have just been amazing from people, and we didn't know at the time, especially when we started out, but boy, it started to sink in after a couple of years of all that stuff, that there's just something special about it. It was that Barney magic, as we said, so. We're all happy to be along for the ride.
We got about 5 more minutes. Any other questions in the audience? Yes. What's your name?
Wondering when you guys were working with those young children, if y'all realized then that they were going to go on, some of them, pretty productive careers.
Yeah, we had talked before you came in about Selena Gomez, Madison Pettis, some of the other actresses. Yeah.
Demi Lovato, yeah. Actually, I left a year before they came on, and I don't know if you
I didn't work with them at all.
So
no.
None of us actually worked with them. So it's like one of the first questions I get from kids of a certain age, especially. So what was it like working with Demi? What was it like working with Selena? I don't know.
I guess the one person I did work with, or we worked with, was Erica Rhodes.
Yes, yeah.
She's still Erica Rhodes? I
Yeah,
don't
she's
remember.
Danielle Cole.
There it is.
Yes.
There it is. She
changed names.
is out in L.A. and does quite a bit.
Yeah, she
Quite a
did
bit.
East LA High.
That's it.
And some other things. And yeah, I mean, super. Oh, well, there's also Pia Manalo, who was
Broadway.
Min. She is on Broadway. She's been dancing on Broadway in The Lion King for years now.
Yeah.
She tells the story that when she was a kid, she actually went to see The Lion King, and she told herself, I'm going to be in that show. And she ended up being in that show. And she's got her own dance studio, Intrigue Dance in Chicago, which is extremely successful. And then who else? One of the other kids has a dance studio too. I mean, it's just a lot of really super talented kids. So, yeah,
even the ones you don't know
Yeah.
have gone on to do great things
Yeah.
as well.
What about, were there any celebrities that you ever interacted with that wanted to see you guys, that wanted to see the character?
Or that didn't. One who didn't want to see. Bryant Gumbel.
Oh.
We did the Today Show fairly often. We did that show like 5 times or whatever. And the first time that we actually did it in the studio, Bryant was, Barney's just kind of, he's gregarious. He's a hugger, And Barney comes out, and I mean, that was a crazy episode on its own technically, but we survived it. But when Barney came out, and Barney goes up to Brian and he says, how about a hug? How about a hug, Brian? Come on. And Brian's like, Bryant Gumbel. Yeah. But eventually, and Barney's going, oh, come on, buddy, give me a hug. And eventually he goes, all right. And Barney hugs him. Do this. And you hear this, the staff is laughing in the background, And afterwards, one of the crew comes up to me and says, shakes my hand and says, "Oh, thank you for doing that. He absolutely hated it. It was so funny." I love Brian. I really do. He's really great, but he was just being a bit of a curmudgeon, I guess. But yeah, the staff, it was like more than one person came up and just said thank you. They thought that was a lot of fun. So.